in his car, believe it or not. This is how diehard Jack Marchant is for the program. He has fixed his hair. He's in his car, and he now joins us to start off hour number 2. Jack Marchant, the head coach of the Georgia Revolution. Jack, thanks for hanging out with us to continue the preview.
Jay, John, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's heading up to Atlanta, getting ready for training this afternoon.
And for those that don't know, let everybody know how many jobs you currently have this time of year.
Well, with the Revs, probably about 5. Over just two main ones, obviously being at Georgia College as well. But it's been a busy summer, but an enjoyable one.
All right, so let's break down what it's been like for you this season with the Revs. Was one of the most competitive conferences we know out there, and this year was no different. You finish up as the 3 seed at 5-5 and 15 points. What was the regular season like for the Revs?
It was down, up, down, up, down. It was a bit of everything. But no, you just said it there. The league was fantastic overall. The new additions were brilliant, and like I said, it was, although a short season, it was great to have so many teams in the hunt going into the last weekend, and it still kind of changed a lot. But we've been saying it all season long that I felt that there was going to be a time coming where we put it all together. We just saved it for the last game of the season. But we've put back-to-back good performances together now. So, when it comes to the playoffs, it's a lottery, and it's who's ready on the night and who's going in with form. And, we feel like we're going in a good place. So we're excited for tomorrow.
For someone who has not had the chance to catch the Revs in person or online in a streaming way to see you guys, someone's going to be watching you for the first time against App coming up here in the midweek. Who would be, if you and I were sitting in the broadcast booth and, where the broadcast starts, you get the title card and it's Revs versus App and we're in Boone and everything, and you're my color guy. There's always that segment where you sit there and it's like, okay, players to focus on. So who are some of the players that folks would be naturally gravitating toward for the Revs in this matchup against App FC?
I think from a neutral standpoint, I think you always look at attacking players first. Aaron Witten is our local Mr. Hollywood, as he's known in and around McDonough. But he's our top goal scorer this season. Again, I think he's on 5 or 6 goals, so scoring every other game. Long hair, headband, him and Craig, very similar. But he's easy to note which one he is, and he's been superb. I mean, I think he's knocked out, 90-minute performances so far this season. Again, a threat, athletic, quick, great feet. And again, most of his goals have come off kind of one-touch fit. His finish on Saturday was unbelievable. He's certainly one. Callum scorer, obviously. I think one of the best players, not in just the conference, but in the entire league. Just a fantastic all-round footballer. Got himself a move back home. So excited to see what he does post this season. But for the football purists, Tom Wilson at the back for us. I don't think he's put a foot wrong all season. He's been an absolute rock for us. Again, a guy from the College of Charleston. He's been absolutely superb. I mean, if we could have 20 of him, you wouldn't be unhappy, but he's been absolutely superb.
How difficult is it to hit the ground running in the NPSL? Because first couple of weeks, and we've talked to coaches all around the league, you're going to be adding players. You're going to be figuring out who that 20 is, where that roster is. Then you might get settled in, and by the time you're settled, it's the halfway point of the year, and then you're either having to dig yourself out of a hole or race for a playoff spot. How difficult is it to manage a season in the NPSL knowing that it is the sprint that it is?
It's extremely tough. Chatting last week, and I mean, Storm are a very good team, but it's hard when you start the season off in a hole. It can go by very quickly. And then next thing you know, like you said, you're 5 games in and you feel like, right, we've got the pieces in place now, but you're 6, 7, 8 points behind where you would like to be or where you need to be. It's tough. And the first couple of weeks are tough for everybody. You got obviously guys coming from colleges all over the country that end at different times. And just trying to get those guys settled into a routine, get used to playing each other. We found it very useful to pick up as many scrimmages as we can at the beginning of the year. because you're just trying to figure out, or the lads are just trying to figure out each other and how each other plays. I don't think it would be detrimental to the league to push the start back, especially in our conference, by a week or two, and then maybe add in a couple of midweek games. Just again to enhance the quality, because I feel like those early weeks don't do anybody particularly any justice. So yeah, it's tough, and it's a long, quick, fast, short marathon. 10 weeks. It has a little bit of everything, and with having a week in between games, it's a lot of time for reflection. So a loss isn't the end of the world, but you got to reset, refocus, and get ready for the next week. But it's a slog, but you get to this point, and again, this is why we all do this job. This is why the players play, the coaches coach. We get to the conference, and when you start to get close to winning things, so that's why we do it.
Jack Marchant, the head coach of the Georgia Revs, getting ready for their matchup against App FC coming up here in the midweek in the Southeast Conference semifinals here in the NPSL SDH on hour number 2 when it comes to Tuesday Thoughts. When I do my high school football coverage, the other football, the American football, it's like I've got this football here, and then literally when the show's over today, I change my outfit, I head downtown, and I'm doing high school football stuff, American football. There's a segment that we do during high school football season. It's called Make That Kid an Offer, where we like to sit there and focus on the student athlete that for whatever reason isn't getting looked at by colleges. They're too small. They're not muscular enough. They're too small. They're not fast enough. The school is too small or whatever. On your roster, is there anyone that you would sit there and say, this individual is being overlooked and really could benefit someone at the next level, in the professional level, whether it's here domestically or overseas, that could really help out somebody in League One or the championship or overseas? If I sat there and I asked you, okay, make that kid an offer, is there anybody on the Georgia Revs roster where you would sit there and say, look at this guy, he would really do well as a pro at the next level?
I mean, Callum's the guy, and it's something that we've worked diligently on for the last couple of years. It's obviously a little bit different for him being based in the UK, but we know we've got him some looks once the season's over here. He's going to be going off training with a couple of teams. Aaron's another one. Aaron's come, again, he's a Locust Grove guy, played up at Reinhardt. I've said it all along, and this isn't meant to be disrespectful anyway, but we think if he was from Atlanta or maybe an international kid, he maybe would have gone somewhere a little bit different other than Reinhardt. But, he's a 2-time All-American up there. And no matter what the level, I played NAI. If you're an All-American at NAI, you're a top-level player. And Aaron can certainly do a job at the next level, I think, as well. But, yeah, there's Tom's another one. Tom Wilson's another one where he's a funny one. Being a centre-back, he's not loud, he's not commanding, but the way he plays the game, he can certainly play at the next level. He's going back to his junior year at the College of Charleston. He's another one that we're trying to get some looks at from some other people post NPSL season. So, there's 3 right there that I think could fit into a team up in leagues above.
How would you break down the rivalries here in the Southeast Conference? Because I know that you can look at Storm and Revs, and that one is a rivalry because of the history that's attached with these two. How much of a rivalry are you developing with App, and how much of a rivalry has been developed with Apotheos and with now Hops hopping into, pardon the pun, what's going on in the Southeast Conference?
I think going back to the beginning of our conversation, just the level of talent that those teams have brought in, I think, brings the natural rivalry. Obviously, us and Storm have been in the NPSL a long time, and it's been an ongoing rivalry, again, being probably geographically the closest to each other. Apotheos, I think, is a budding rivalry. Obviously, their backstory with Bruno and everyone being in and around the Atlanta area, obviously everybody knows them. I think the level of soccer they've brought to the conference this year has really helped put the Southeast on the map. Again, that's what we want. We want high-level football. As much as we all like the drubbings, the guaranteed wins every week, we want to be in competitive games. And again, Apotheos, have gone about it their way, but it's done nothing but bring talent to the league. App is a very, very good rivalry. I think myself and Dale, I think we recruit similar types of players. So, it's a game where we're at each other for 90 minutes. But once that full-time whistle blows, we'll shake hands and we'll have a chat. And as you would do, you have a beer with the guy. It's a bit more of a rivalry for me, as I've played them 4 times and haven't beaten them yet. So it's extra for me. And then Charlotte, again, put it together very quickly. I said it once we went back to back with them and we took 6 points off them. That's a very, very good 6 points, I think, in the long run of things. Again, watching their game on Friday night, I thought they were better than Apatheos. It was just a 5-minute spell of madness where they scored 3 goals. But, the league is getting very competitive and the distances that we're driving to these places aren't too great. So, there is the opportunity. I've seen a lot of games played this year where away fans are there, and that's fantastic. It's great for the league. It's great for the players playing. We've had, although not as big a following, we have at least one guy in the stands every time we go on the road, and it's great, especially when you go up to Boone in a sea of black and yellow. You see one little red and white jersey stood there, and, it gives you a bit of extra motivation to reward those people who put in all that effort. So, I think the Southeast Conference is in a really good spot right now and is just going to continue to go from strength to strength.
Okay, so for someone who has not seen App this year, what kind of a game are you expecting? What has study hall been like? I know there aren't any secrets really this time of year when you're in the postseason, but you mentioned Jarrett said that he anticipated that this game was going to be a rock fight. So is Jarrett correct, as I bring Jarrett in? Jarrett Smith said that this match between you and App is going to be a rock fight. Is he accurate, Jack?
I think it's going to be a rock fight hidden behind a chess match. Dale's got his team well organized, well drilled. It's a core group that he's kept together now for 3 years. And it's going to go up there and it's going to be tight. It's going to be tense. It's going to be everything you want from a playoff game, because they're going to have 3,000 people in the stands, making it difficult for us as well. They house their guys right behind our bench, so it's difficult to get instruction across. But I'd like to think that for 90 minutes, like we did up there 10 days ago, we're going to go blow for blow with each other and just give it a really good go.
Jarrett, last word with Jack Marchant's yours.
Hey, Jack, thanks for jumping on. And I'm excited. I'm glad you mentioned it, to being more chess match related, because I like the way you mentioned it, in the sense that it's going to look physical. It's going to look rough. I'm sure it's going to be cagey at times. But as far as like getting through this game, how much is it for, some of the veteran guys on the team to help younger guys on the team kind of stay locked in mentally and not get kind of over their skis, for lack of a better term, in a playoff game, and make sure that they don't get out of sorts and give App any opportunities?
Oh, it's massive. It's massive. But, the squad we're going to be taking up there is going to be very similar to the one that went up there 10 days ago. So kind of the atmosphere and the surroundings shouldn't be overwhelming for any of the players. But like you said, we're at the point now where mistakes don't cost you goals. They potentially end your season. So it's about, staying focused, staying locked in. And, once the game starts, I'd like to think I can help as much as I can. But like you said, it's the guys in red and white shirts who are stood 5-10 yards away from each other, looking at each other, and they have to drag themselves through the tough periods of the game, because there are going to be tough periods of the game. But yeah, like you said, you got to lean on those older guys to get the young guys' heads in the right spaces and, do their best to get us through and get us a result. So, I'm really looking forward to it. Well, would it be great to be at home? Absolutely. But if you're going to play away somewhere, there's no better place than up there in the mountains with that atmosphere. And your goal as an away team is to shut them down and quiet them down as quick and as long as possible.
And the beauty of TV production here is that we can bring in Dale Parker at the tail end of Jack Marchant's interview. So, Dale, it is Jack, it is Jarrett, and it is me. So Jack is basically handing off to you. He said nice things about Boone.
Well, that's good. He's not wrong. It's not a bad place to be for the summer. I just caught the back end of that conversation there. I think playing knockout football in front of this crowd. I think it's good for everybody. Obviously, gives us a little bit of an advantage. But I think if we were traveling somewhere, if we had to travel somewhere, we'd want to go somewhere where there's a big following and good support. And yeah, we're hoping for an exciting game of football, whichever way it goes.
Well, Jack, thanks for hanging on with us, and safe travels to practice. I know you've got a little bit of a roadie to get to, so both hands on the wheel, be safe, and we'll be keeping an eye, Jack, on you and the Georgia Revs as we get ready to talk to Dale about the app side so you can listen and get state secrets from Dale. It's just that we're going to talk to Dale. Thanks for hanging out with us, Jack.
Yeah, see you tomorrow, Dale. See you guys.
Yeah, see you, Jack.
All right, so we tag out. We go to the hot tag. We go from Jack Marchant of the Revs to Dale Parker of App FC. And Jarrett, first question from you for Dale is what?
Dale, thanks for jumping on today, man. And it's been a wild season. We've been talking with a bunch of people and tagging in and out this morning. I just wanted to get your general feeling of the growth of the league this year from last year, especially with Charlottetown coming in and making the playoffs in year one, but just your general thoughts on how the league has grown and developed year over year.
Yeah, I mean, the straight answer is we've had 6 teams this year that, at any given moment could beat anyone. That just shows you the strength of the quality of the league in terms of the players and the coaches. I remember our first year in 2021, there'd be some games where you felt this doesn't really feel, like a professional environment. It doesn't really feel like a strong opponent. And over the last couple of years, that's just radically changed. And this year has really been a credit to all the clubs involved. In particular, the 2 new clubs that have joined in, 865 and Charlottetown. They've added immediate strength to the league. And it's definitely what we needed. We're a smaller league with 6 teams. There's some divisions with upwards of 8, 9, 10 teams, and you don't mind a few weaker teams if you've got a bigger group like that. But for our schedule, it strengthens it and obviously makes it more difficult. But obviously, at the same time, you want that as a coach, and definitely as players, you want competitive games, and that's definitely what we've seen this year.
Finishing up at 5-3-2, you're the 2 seed. As we're talking to Jack, you're hosting one of the semifinals here coming up in the midweek. When you look at the Southeast Conference, you've talked about it. When it comes to your squad, for someone who, and I've asked Jack this question too, for someone who has not seen App play this year, and they're drifting in and they're watching you guys for the first time in this 2-3 matchup in the first round of the playoffs in the semifinal, who would be some of the folks that the eyes would naturally gravitate toward if App is doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're being successful out there on the pitch?
Well, Eli Bakota is someone who has, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, really, really stood out and taken the team on his shoulders, because we've had a couple of tough games against Charlottetown. And then we played the Revs, and we had to go to Alliance to ensure, hosting a game this week. And he's been the one over recent weeks that has taken the team on his shoulders when, there's been moments where we haven't been playing so well, and he's lifted us, scored a big goal on Saturday night in difficult circumstances. And he's playing as one of our forwards. He's been outstanding. So he's someone to keep an eye out for. I think his strike partner, Mikey Eberle, has been just as good. His hold-up play and his development over the course of the season has been fantastic. So those 2 are going to be heavily relied upon for us. And then really there's been a lot of change across our back line and in midfield, especially over the last 3 or 4 weeks with injuries, suspensions, different games, different tactics. So it'd be hard to really pinpoint 1 or 2 players, but London Williams is another one who's been playing in central midfield. He's popped up with a lot of goals this year. We're expecting him to drive us forward and have a good run in the playoffs. But outside of that, I think it's more of a collective task that we've got ahead of us. We need everybody on board, and it's not just the 11 that we're going to pick to start the game. We're going to be relying upon a good 14, 15 guys to get us through these hopefully next couple of games.
Jarrett Smith for Dale Parker.
You talk about Eberle, and I'm glad you mentioned him, because he's one that when we were doing the game in Kennesaw earlier this season really stuck out to us. And just he gets a goal, but also and I mean this in the most complimentary way possible, he looks miserable to play against. And a lot of these guys really seem like they embody it in the sense that, they just look tough to deal with. And I wanted to get your thoughts on just him and the strike partnership as a whole, if you could expand on just like what it is that they do, even the little things that just make life easier for everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, Mikey's difficult to play against. I would hate to have played against someone like him when I played. He's tall, but he's quick. He's quite slender, but he's strong. He looks awkward, but he's really good on the ball. So everything that you feel like you can have an advantage against him, it's almost the opposite. And I've known him since he was a young player, worked with him in Northern Virginia. And he was always a central midfield player or defensive-minded midfield player. And then the last year leading into college, he basically got converted into a striker, and he's got all the traits of a top striker. And he started to add goals to his game, came up with another big goal this past weekend. And just a really awkward player to play against. And if you switch off against him, he's going to cause problems. And I think that's one of his biggest strengths when the other team's having a positive moment, when they're dominating the ball for a short period of time, he's able to, surprise them and get on the ball. Like the goal against Apotheos was sort of testament to that. We were down, struggling a little bit, and then we've just turned up the heat a little bit, and then he scored in the blink of an eye. It's 1-1. And Eli Bakota is a similar type of player in terms of his impact, but different on the eye. He's much more of a exciting dribbler. He likes to try some tricks here and there. He's got pace. He's got power. He's also a creator as well as a goal scorer. So he's just very, very exciting to watch. And then together, you've almost got a fantastic pair in there that we're very, very, very fortunate to have. And hopefully they can fire us through when we play tomorrow night.
When it comes to rivals in the Southeast, where would you, I guess, place rivalries, whether it's from a fan perspective? You look at the fans and the fans say, well, yeah, they're our number one rival. Or from a coaching perspective, and you sit there and go, yeah, they're our rival. When it comes to Revs, where would you say the rivalry is? Is it like one of the top? Is it the top rivalry? Where would you consider App and Revs when it comes to rivals here in the Southeast?
Well, for me, historically, they've got the biggest history in the league. So when I look at the league, I always think, well, the Revs are going to be one of the favourites every year. And especially since my first year, they were a fantastic team, very, very difficult to beat. They beat us twice that year. And, I'm at a point after that, we've got to find a way to make sure that doesn't happen again. And unfortunately for us, we haven't lost to them since then. And I take that personally. I think it's a good record that we've got against them currently, and we want that to continue. But when the schedule comes out, I'm always looking for that game, the home and away against Georgia Revolution, because we want to be, historically, we want to have a history like they have. We want to be around for a long time. Want to have multiple championships if we can do that. And I put it right up there. I know the fans will probably say Charlottetown is the big one now, with them being so close to us. But considering I've been here since the first year of App FC, and that was the team to beat, for me, Revs are right up there as our main rivals.
You talked about Boone when we were doing the bit of crossover. I wanted to see if you could talk a bit more about just the growth of the game in Boone as a whole, because I know it's an area that, especially for those of us in the South, we associate a lot of times with college football. But it certainly does feel like it is growing at an obscene rate, and a lot of it because of the work y'all have done and on the field and social media, everything about it. But wanted to talk to you about the growth of Boone as a whole as a soccer community.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a sports town. So you got a lot of people in this area, like you said, are massive App State football fans and basketball fans and baseball fans. And then, since they lost the men's soccer program during COVID, there's a tiny hole there that just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then we've been able to fill it over the last 3 seasons. So year one was obviously very exciting for everybody because it was new. Year 2, because of the success that we had, just grew that excitement. And then year 3 was the anticipation of the US Open Cup, which we had an amazing time doing, prior to the summer season, and that's just carried on as we've gone through this season. So I think the excitement of the on-field stuff is one thing that's helped grow the game, but there's been a lot of things in between all that. The World Cup's taken place. There's been a big push, in the local area. If you look at the youth game, there's a lot more clubs, a lot more teams pushing in the right direction. A lot of players are now emerging from Boone, a lot of young players that are taking up the game and playing and getting to a high level. And because of that, we've been able to have more local players in the squad and on the team. So that's certainly helped the growth of the game. But I think the biggest driving factor is the support that most sports get in this community, but in particularly ours. The fans are crazy in a good way. They're very, very supportive. They want to be involved in what we're doing. They're very proud to be our 12th player, and we've relied upon them in the last couple of years to get us over the line. So we've been very, very fortunate. Hopefully, it continues to grow. But if ever anyone gets the opportunity to come up here and experience a game, I definitely recommend it. It's a unique environment. It's a great stadium, unique fans, and we try and match that with the way we play on the pitch.
Another couple of minutes with Dale Parker, the head coach of AppFC, as they get ready to host Georgia Revs in the first round of the playoffs in the Southern Conference coming up here in the midweek. I asked Jack this question, and I'll ask it for you. When I do my American football coverage, like when I leave the studio and I go and cover American high school football, the other football, we have a segment that we tie to recruiting called Make That Kid an Offer. And it's for whatever reason. Too small, too wide, not tall enough, not enough experience in the eyes of whomever feels that it's important. But for whatever reason, some player is too whatever not to get a look from the next level, whether it's a college that you think that they should really be D2 instead of D3 or D1 instead of D2, or they really could do well in USL League One or USL Championship as a professional. Is there anyone on your squad that fits that, make that kid an offer kind of a mentality that is being overlooked for whatever reason in your mind that really deserves a shot at the next level, whatever that next level might be?
That's a really good question. I mean, we have I think the basis of the league or the fundamental part of our recruitment is bringing in players who are playing at a high level at college that could perhaps play at the next level. So if we're looking at players in the current group that are at that age, coming out of their college careers and potentially could deserve an opportunity, Marchant Kelman is someone who's been with us now for 3 years. He's been involved in the Barbados youth setup as he was growing up, and he's someone who's been a standout player for us. He's played against some top level players and consistently been a difficult player to play against at the back. So he'd be one who I'd be looking to push to get an opportunity moving forward. But there's a couple of younger guys who've emerged this year who've really shown how good they are. I wouldn't necessarily surprise those and have been unexpected, but have really gone above and beyond what we expected. I think our left back Charlie Leach is one that you wouldn't necessarily think is such a high impact position, right? A left back, someone who can help you win a game and stop you from losing a game. He's been somebody this year who's been absolutely terrific, one of our best players almost every single game, and he's only going into, I think, his second or third year in college, so he's got a long way to go still, but he'd be someone to keep a close eye on moving forward. And obviously one guy I mentioned earlier, Eli Bakota, he's going to light up the screen. If you're watching it on the screen or watching it in person, he's going to be an exciting player that everybody's going to be saying, how is he not playing at the next level? So he's somebody definitely to be watching out for. Last
question for Dale goes to you, Jarrett.
We were talking as well with other coaches today as we've been kind of making the roundtables about this match in particular, because you had described, I called it a bit of a potentially a rock fight just because styles make fights, but also a chess match in it. And I wanted to ask you, how tough is it to play a team 3 times in such a short amount of time? And kind of try and throw something new at them, or while also knowing what they're going to do, they know what you're going to do? How tough is that to see them 3 times in this small of a window?
Very, very difficult. We were talking about that this week. We've had 2 good results against them. Over 2 games, we haven't conceded a goal and we've scored 6. But that doesn't mean anything going into tomorrow. Beating a team, twice is difficult enough. 3 times is extremely difficult because they're going to know pretty much everything about all of our players. But at the same time, we have a good grasp on what we think they might do. But like you said, is now the right time to throw a surprise, or do you play safer with it being knockout football? There's a lot of questions that are just out there that are going to be answered very early in the game. All we can do is prepare as best as we can in a team shape that we think is going to be successful, and picking 11 players that we think are going to start the game well. I don't think we can do much more than that. We can't overthink it. We can't try and predict too much. We've got to anticipate a tough game, but anticipate that it won't be 2 or 3 goals. It'll be a 1-goal game most likely. And as long as we're prepared mentally for all of that, I think that's the only way you can really handle these situations, and just try not to get caught up in all the game film and all the predictions and thinking they're going to do one thing when they could do completely something that you've not seen yet. So yeah, we'll just be focusing on the basics, and hopefully we get it right early and we can adjust if we need to.
Dale Parker, the head coach of App FC, getting ready for the matchup against the Georgia Revs in the Southern Conference semis of the NPSL. Dale, thanks for hanging out with us. I know that you've got a lot of demands on your time from a lot of different directions. You've got a 1-year-old, you got a team to coach, and I was going to ask if you wanted to break any news here on the show about anything that you're going to do differently, but I'm going to let you hang on to that. Dale, thanks for hanging out with us for the NPSL preview. Good luck tomorrow. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate the coverage, and hopefully we'll put on a good show for you.